guys have probably seen the debates because it's gone quite viral, thanks to Piers Morgan's style and lying, because lying creates a great deal of drama, doesn't it? Unfortunately, the truth, if you're in the business of doing that and telling the truth, you don't really get much from it nowadays. It seems like if you lie for a living, which is exactly what Piers Morgan does, you thrive on the lie. I don't think Piers Morgan would know the truth, even if it slapped him in the face. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, Piers Morgan had a debate between an actual brilliant, very sophisticated lawyer and international law expert and comedian and supposed expert on all things Israel and the terrorist organization war that is going on at the moment in Gaza. They held the debate, and the video of Piers Morgan acting like a bully and really deplorable. And he calls himself a journalist. But anyway, that video has gone incredibly viral, and loads of people have been piling on and calling out Piers Morgan. And well, instead of being humble and apologizing to Natasha for his despicable behavior, Piers Morgan thought that he was in the right. He had apparently every right to call out Natasha's lies. Yes, Natasha, who is a lawyer and expert in international law, is supposedly lying to Piers Morgan, who has built his entire career off of lies. So Natasha, who, because she sides with Israel, is automatically by default a liar, versus Piers Morgan, who switches sides because, it feels good for him to do so because his audience have demanded that he switch sides, and because it's trendy, and because, well, the lie, as I said, props you up. You get lots more views. You get a lot bigger audience. That's exactly what his show is all about. My show, on the other hand, is about telling the truth. And I will do just that. No matter the consequences involved, I will always do my best to tell the truth. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very grateful for all of you that continue to support me, and even the ones that go after me too. So it is the nature of the whole thing, but I'll continue to share the truth and tell it how it is. Now, the situation in Gaza at the moment is quite a tricky one. We already know that. But make no mistake, I am not going to side with the likes of Hamas. I will never do that. I'm always going to side with the group that is trying to wipe out, because that's what we should do. We don't want to exist. But according to Piers Morgan, well, how far is it before we actually get into the realm of that we're supposed to be fighting and defeating? How long before the ones that are trying to get rid of the terrorist organizations, how long is it before we become the actual terrorists as well? Interesting question, isn't it? Well, Piers Morgan, I'll answer it for you. You have an actual organization that was built upon eradicating another group of people, and then you have an actual democracy. So that democracy you want to call a terrorist organization because they're trying to wipe out a group that was founded upon wiping out and the eradication of other people? Let that sink into your head for a moment. So Piers Morgan goes, the truth about anti-Israel propaganda. Yes, the truth, because that's one thing that Piers Morgan is known for, isn't it? The truth. Switching sides on Israel's war in Gaza. Make no mistake, this is a G-word terrorist network whose wicked goal is the total eradication of the Israeli state. But once again, I find myself asking, how much further can this go on before Israel is guilty of the very terrorist stuff it's supposed to be fighting? Strong words, which I sincerely agree with. And that will come as no surprise when you discover that I said them on my show exactly 1 year ago. Throngs of social media tribalists, that's what you want to call them, think I've suddenly and dramatically switched sides on Israel's Gaza war at the moment. The truth is that I'm not on any side and never have been. That's not my job as a journalist. No, your job as a journalist is actually to report the truth and not shout down a brilliant lawyer and international law expert. That's not your job as a journalist. Your job as a journalist is to ask questions. And well, if you end up picking no sides whatsoever, you just like a fence sitter, and no one likes a fence sitter. There has never been and there has been no sudden change either. My anger with Israelis leadership has been simmering for a long time, right? And not anger towards the ones that started it all. Just as the war itself has evolved insidiously from a righteous response to a heinous terrorist attack into a campaign of aimless brutality. Israel has marched over red line after red line, culminating into the horrific 11-week blockade, which left thousands starving, many of them infants. I make no apology for being appalled. For a long time, I was berated for spouting Israeli talking points and ridiculously accused of being an Islamophobe. Yes, because there's one thing that we know for certain. It's, oh, if you are on the side of Israel, you are against Islam, and we can't have that. We can't have anyone be against Islam. And to be honest, it's one thing that we know for certain. Piers Morgan doesn't want to be called an Islamophobe. God forbid that actually happens, ladies and gentlemen. Can't go against the Muslims. Tommy Robinson has already called him out a number of times because Islamophobia can't actually exist. You can't have an irrational fear towards something that is perfectly rational. At the moment, I'm being repeatedly berated for spouting talking points and equally ridiculously accused of being an anti-Semite. Fanatics on both sides of this debate try to smear their critics as bigots and use phrases like propaganda and talking points to discredit what they say. There's a great deal of propaganda, Piers, if you haven't already noticed that, coming from the likes of the terrorist organization that you are in bed with and supporting. And then same thing with Israel. Now, I'm still on the side of Israel. Make no mistake about it. I'm still on the side of Israel because they're trying to wipe out the terrorist organization. And we should be on the side of democracies, should we not? Oh, but no, they're bad. They're really, really bad people. They're spouting too much good propaganda of them actually wiping out the bad people. Oh, they're really the bad people now. And yet we'll actually lap up the propaganda machine that is in full swing from the terrorists. Okay, fair enough. Unbelievable. They will cheer you to the rafters when you're echoing their position and accuse you of villainously misdeeds when you don't. Many of the same people who have praised my combative interviews with Hamas apologists are now demanding my show is cancelled, which will be extremely difficult because I own it. That's why it's so important to keep a firm grip on facts and your own sense of what's right and wrong. Well, I would love to know, Piers Morgan, what you think the facts actually are, because you don't really know the facts. As a journalist, you'd think you'd listen to someone that actually knows the facts, being Natasha, but no, can't have her on because she supports Israel. And when it comes down to your own sense of what's right and wrong, I don't even think you know yourself what's right and what's wrong. I think you know lying is like your only North Star, so to speak. My sense is that Israel had every right and indeed a duty to declare war on Hamas. Full stop. Declaring war on terrorists. Perfect. Should have left it at that. Because what comes with war, Piers Morgan? Atrocities. But what the IDF is now doing is deeply and clearly wrong. So would you have taken this stance in World War II? Because the Allies, rightfully so, declared war on the Nazis. Oh, but the Allies have taken it too far by bombing Germany, killing innocent civilians. What are we going to do? It's deeply and clearly wrong what the Allies are doing. They should stop. They should know better. That's how you're acting right now. So what do? Stop and let the Nazis take over? Because you'd probably be speaking German. The world would look very differently. Oh, okay, let the IDF stop, because they had every right to declare war on the terrorist organization that killed 1,200 of their own citizens in a barbaric manner, but yet they can't keep going. Okay. The facts in Gaza are hard to come by. I'm glad we agree on something. As the BBC's Jeremy Bowen said, okay, we're going to be quoting BBC, all right. Israeli forces won't let him or anybody else in because they probably want to hide what they're doing. Yes, trust everything the BBC says, because we know they've got a brilliant track record of telling the truth, just like Piers Morgan does. But we have enough evidence from the medics, volunteers, footage, and testimony to understand that one of the world's most advanced militaries is inflicting death and suffering on an inhuman scale. Right. So we've got evidence from medics, volunteers, the footage, all that sort of stuff, and testimonies to understand. Okay. Zero idea. Not to mention that we've got AI, technology, bias, you name it, anti-Israel, conflicting stories. Can't mention any of that. Can't mention that a lot of people that are in Gaza at the moment probably support the ones that are governing them and the ones that started the damn war in the first place. Can't mention that. If that's a talking point, ask yourself why so many Israeli allies, two former Israeli prime ministers, and many of Israel's staunchest supporters are now using it. Yes, the two Israeli prime ministers that were against Netanyahu, and actually one of them spent a great deal of time in prison for something. Yes, political rival. Why else would you jump on the bandwagon of trying to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu? And by the way, okay, I know people support Bibi Netanyahu. I support Israel. Okay, Bibi is a different story altogether, right? I think Bibi's handling of this probably not the greatest, but anyway, I know he's in a very difficult position. That being said, the other Israeli prime ministers are just jumping on the bandwagon to bash Israel. Several recent interviews on Uncensored have laid bare my frustration with Israel's position, most notably the one I did with Zippy Hotevi, Israel's ambassador to the UK. Well, we all saw that. I asked her 17 times how she could say with great certainty how many Hamas terrorists Israel has eliminated, but apparently have no idea how many innocent children have died as collateral. A bit hard to know, I think, any of those things. And 17 times she failed to give an answer. This week's Channel 4's Kishnam Guru Muthi was accused on air by an Israeli spokesman of advocating for having the temerity to question the official position on deadly clashes at aid sites. It's not going to wash when senior members of the Israeli government are openly calling for the total conquest and destruction of Gaza. Its representative should expect to find their moral high ground is collapsing. I think your moral high ground, Piers Morgan, you never had to begin with. But anyway, do we hold Israeli officials to a higher standard than Hamas? Yes, of course we do. Otherwise, what was the point of the war? Hang on. Do we hold Israeli officials to a higher standard than Hamas? Of course we do. Otherwise, what is the point of the war? The point of the war is to destroy the terrorist organization, Piers Morgan. And why? Yeah, okay, fair enough, because they're democratic. Of course, we hold them to a higher standard than the terrorist organization, because why would we expect anything more or less? The point of the war is to destroy the very group that wanted, and in their charter, has the annihilation of one particular group. That's the point. Get rid of them. It was a conflict waged against killing with impunity, against civilian suffering, and against the hateful disregard for human life. I'll continue to hold people on all sides to account, but yet when we hold you account, by the way, you can check Piers Morgan has gone on an absolute tirade of blocking people over on his X account. So he won't be held account for himself, but yes, he'll try and hold other people to account. As I've tried to since this appalling war began. But the uncomfortable truth right now, oh, we're going with the truth, are we? Is that the biggest driver of anti-Israel propaganda is the Israeli government itself. Wow. So Israel is responsible for the very, oh my goodness, Piers Morgan, that statement alone, man, was one of the dumbest statements I have heard you say. And you've said a lot, mate. You are saying that Israel is responsible for its own anti-propaganda machine and not the actual terrorist organization or the pro-Palestinian nut jobs in the streets. So you, by saying that statement, Piers Morgan, are going against Israel 100%. You're blaming Israel and saying that it's their own fault for trying to wipe out the terrorist organization. That is nuts. Are you kidding me? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth according to Piers Morgan. Do you believe him? I certainly don't. Did he make a convincing argument? No. Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.